fears and talk to them appropriately about this crisis. Joining us now with some guidance, Dr. Laura Saunders. She's a child psychologist at the Institute of Living with Hartford Hospital. Dr. Saunders, as always, we appreciate you being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So clearly this is a very heavy thing for adults to comprehend, nonetheless children. Where do we start with talking to our kids about this, truly devastating topic?
So I think it's important to always look at any incident like this through a developmental lens. So what you would say to young children is different than what you might say to middle schoolers or high schoolers. Obviously you use more simple, concrete-based language with young children, and you can give more detail based on, questions that middle school or high school young people would ask. I do like to have a guideline of providing information, but then waiting for kids to ask questions. So not necessarily providing them with a plethora of information and overwhelming them. Give them basic information, allow them to process it, and then ask questions. It also has to do with points of connection. So someone who might be of Russian or Ukrainian descent or have family members, it's very deeply personal. It feels much more connected. You would want to give more information. If you're more disconnected from it, people might not go into as much detail, or it might not have as much relevance for someone. But those are two guidelines, developmental and then kind of points of connection.
There's a video circulating from news outlets to social media, and it's showing father being separated from his daughter. And it is a very emotional video. The father is hysterically crying, as is the young daughter, as she's going to safety and may never see her father again. The father may never see his daughter again. Is it best to not allow children to watch videos on this or see these types of images? Because I know that video has stuck with me.
So, yeah, that's where some of the kind of miscellaneous, just having the TV on in the kitchen, where these kinds of images or videos might come up would be very troubling. It would be very troubling for me to see something like that as well. And those images, can really stick with you. And those are really hard to explain. They're hard for us as adults to understand that kind of emotional pain and conflict that someone might be going through. But if your child does see some of these things, and some of these things are happening in a variety of different contexts. There's been some like Ukrainian soccer players, making statements. So there's a lot of ways that this information comes out so that you can't really control it. So it's best to, instead of control it, try to provide simple, concrete, fact-based information when you can, because when it gets too overly emotional, it's really just too hard to explain.
Absolutely. And children have already been through so much with the pandemic. Now we're adding on to it these worries about war. We know that mental health issues are only rising as of late. What can we do to try to ease that anxiety that our children may be feeling?
So you're making a good point, which is, there is so much on our plates, right? There's so much. COVID has really changed the landscape socially and emotionally for not just our children, but for us as adults and teachers and parents and caregivers. So finding small ways to bring a little bit of joy into one's life, to, take time away from social media, or to do something as a family, or to take some alone time if that's what you need. Finding small ways to bring a little bit of peace and calm and comfort into your life, even if it's like staring out at the snow, if that's what brings you comfort, whatever it is. But finding small ways to bring yourselves and your family a little bit of peace and comfort is the best way to go, because there's so much that we do not have control over. So let's exert some control where we do have it.
Peace and calm, it is what we need. As always, you are a breath of fresh air. Dr. Laura Saunders, thank you so much for your advice and input on this. We appreciate it.
Take care, Erin.